What is up, guys? Tangles Tinkers here, checking in on our little 3D print operation for today. I'm a small business owner and I was thinking about doing this side hustle sort of thing because I got into 3D printers. I don't know much about them, so I'm kind of learning, just jumping right in, making some sales here and there, functional prints, art prints, learning a lot along the way. Subscribe to the channel. This is just exhibition, not instructional. I do giveaways and I just follow along in my process. What am I working on today? Well, if you've been following the channel day to day, I've been doing vlogs. I've got a lot of different things going on here. I did get a sale last night on a product that's probably my least favorite product to do. These mining stands, well, they're like computer stands. My least favorite part is that there's so many parts and I can't fit them in a small box. The markup's not fantastic, but I'm grateful to have a sale. Plus these require, I put those inserts in part of the model. So we're gonna be going in there and doing that. But the benefit to having all these printers and all their different capabilities is when I got that order, I can just stamp them all out real quick. So that's what I've been working on over the night. Soval's finishing up the last two components right now. These face plates here, the legs, I'm gonna go through and assemble it all and go through and put those inserts in. The other printers, I've got sort of the final, not the final, but the roller that I've been working on, one to mimic these kind of rollers, the ones I hope to offer for like a charity buy sort of thing, sort of the Mark 4.0 version of that. So I'm gonna try to fit those together. And this P1P, I don't know if I'm gonna capture it here on camera, but this print, these teddy bears for our character model, we're supposed to finish like 12 hours ago, but I've had to come in here like every hour to untangle this brown PLA. It's a cardboard spool in the AMS, and when it tries to backwind, it just spaghettis out. I've tried to pull it really far out, take a lot of slack, untwist it, and then wrap it back in. But I think ultimately, I'm gonna have to wind this onto a bamboo spool so it can backwind without issue. I'm not really looking forward to that. I took all the bearings out of my winding machine to make this thing, of course. So I'm gonna have to figure that out, or just keep coming in here to fix it until the print finishes, which, I mean, it could, I have no idea, because it could theoretically do it every single time. Cobras are quiet, but they were all chooching last night and early this morning making these parts. And on the Giga, we're gonna do a little more in-depth on this. This is the car fender. It's a fender custom order. Had a guy reach out. I've been kind of chronicling that. He reached out if I could print this fender for a reasonable price because he was getting crazy quotes. And I said, yeah, let's do it. Let's take a stab at it. It's coming out really nice. So I'm gonna leave it alone. 6 hours remain on this print. So tomorrow's video is probably gonna be heavily focused on this. But overall, I'm very optimistic about it. It's pretty tall so far, maybe about 20 inches tall. And that could potentially be a sort of a, you know, a lucrative market. Yeah, I'd have to see what these things go for and then maybe target like a specific car, but there's lots of different cars, lots of different parts, lots of older cars that they don't make parts for anymore, body parts and whatnot, or custom parts. Really getting the files would probably be the hard part, but very optimistic about that. All right, so these are the mining stands. There was an order for 3 of them that came through. And this is the face plate that goes on the front. And as you can see, it's printed in one go. This big flat protrusion here is so it will sit, and the plate that goes on top will rest on top of it to keep this from bowing. And I understand, like, you know, you could just remove this and make it like fit into this front and you could pack it all in a flat shape. Yes, absolutely I could. I just haven't edited the model because this has been inactive for a long time. I had a lot of sales in the beginning, but it kind of tapered off with, you know, crypto and GPU and CPU mining kind of tapering off. And I just never got back around to it. You know, something for another day, I guess, or a complete revision. But otherwise, someone hit me up and they're like, I want more of these. So I put it back online, and that person never ordered, but then someone else came through and bought 3 of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and pack these up. But as you can see here, these little protrusions, these little standoffs need inserts, and you have to heat set these in so people can screw down their motherboard. So I'm gonna do that now. And this is actually a fantastic opportunity to use my fume clear fume extractor, because when I do these, sometimes I inadvertently, with the soldering iron, I do hit a part of the plastic. It creates fumes. You know, you're putting a super duper hot piece of metal into plastic. Some small amount of fumes are gonna be created, and I don't really want those floating around. So I'm gonna run my fume clear during this. This is a great thing to have if you've got pets, kids, or you care about your own body. you know, maybe a good idea if you're working around fumes or soldering or doing anything like that. Maybe check out the link in the description below if you want to pick one of these up. They didn't send me any money for this, but they did send me the device to use for things like this. So that is what I am going to do. So these mining stands, if anyone is interested, again, could be much more efficiently designed, but it's kind of a lot of parts, and I charge like 38 bucks per for these, but if you buy more, you get like significant discounts. But they're not bad. They snap together, which is kind of a bonus, so you're not having to, like, the user doesn't have to like screw too much together. I'm not gonna do it because I don't wanna like have to pull them apart before I ship them, but the legs snap in on the sides of the faceplate, and then the top plate here where your motherboard goes on snaps in to the top like so. So it makes it like one solid structure, and then it has a bottom plate on the bottom that the power supply rests on. So it's all locked in, and it does include one bolt that goes through the faceplate and locks it into this top plate. And so it's like a firm, rigid structure. So it's more of an added sort of peace of mind thing for the end consumer. Again, that you don't have to like a lot of, like I was been saying, like a lot of these stands use the structure of the motherboard and the components to hold the stress of it, but I didn't want to use something like that. And what I charge for it, the reason I kind of don't want to expand on this too much is because for what I charge for it, you can go on Amazon and buy like the cheapest, metal frame to put your computer on. These are a little more, I guess, aesthetically pleasing, and it kind of lifts it up and puts things on top of each other. So it's a little more space saving of a design. The one I currently am using, or was using, flips everything sort of vertical, and that holds a GPU as well, which I think is a little more of an efficient design. But people like these horizontal ones. You don't have your motherboard sitting vertically, which is kind of a nice touch if you don't kind of like the idea of your GPU kind of hanging out here in space. Again, thanks to Fume Clear for sending that thing over. It's been it's great to have for situations like this. Another thing I've been working on too is on my other channel, I've been kind of breaking down a lot of my CPU miners, and it's kind of odd that I got that order on that day. Maybe I got it from my video on my main channel. But I was kind of organizing some of the parts, and I was like, I got a bunch of SSDs, 2.5-inch SSDs. So got this little attribution model, expanded it off Thingiverse, threw it on the Etsy in 10 minutes. So we'll see if anything comes of that. This is kind of like a sort of a test of like these super low effort Etsy things. I usually in my thumbnails, I put text and, free shipping stickers and things like that. This I just left as a bare bones and somewhat simple picture back here against the technical sign of this. And it just holds SSD trays. I'll put a screenshot right here. Just to kind of see, because like this at the lowest, at the absolute lowest I can ship it, is still right at $5. Even if I put it in a bubble mailer where there's like virtually no padding, and it's a pretty robust model, I don't think it would ever break. But still, I'm looking at like $4.50, $5 to ship something like this. And like you can go on Amazon. Well, actually you don't see a lot of these on Amazon, and that's kind of why I was like, yeah, let's try that. But like, I think for my purposes, I've got maybe 7 or 8 SSDs sitting around just stacked up. Like, is this really it's not gonna reduce the amount of space they take up, but it will look nicer. So if you had a 3D printer and printed this, like, yeah, sure. But to like buy something like this, I don't know that I would, but maybe someone would like to do that. And so that's why I just threw it up on Etsy just to see if it works. But what bugs me is like, because this costs like $5 to ship, and you have to factor in Etsy fees and all these other associated fees, and the cost of print's not a lot, like $1.20 maybe. still it adds up. And then it's like, you know, did I leave any room for profit? Because I'm not in this for charity. I'm not in this just for the funsies. The time it takes me to open this file in the slicer, slice it, send it to print, pull it off the printer, put it in a box, print out the packing slip, put it in the box, tape up the box, print the shipping label, tape it on the box, and then, you know, assuming there are other orders, take it to the post office. How much is all that stuff worth? And I think for a lot of people, they don't really account for that. I'd commented on William's workshop video, like, you know, do you think it's worth the time, you know, printing and shipping all those little things? Check out his channel, great channel. And he said yes, because he's like learning the flow and the hustle. And I like completely and totally understand that. Like, you know, I've been there too. And back when I started my business, like, you know, anything was great. But I guess like maybe I'm coming at it from a bias because it's like, I want big chunkier pops of money. It's either big pop of money or nothing, you know, versus doing 100 orders a day. Like, you know, if I sold 100 of these a day, and there are a lot of Etsy sellers out there that do stuff like this, like they sell 100 of these a day, and that seems great. It's like I'm getting 100 orders a day. But if you're ripping like even if you're ripping $2 of profit on these at 100 a day, you know, it's $200 a day. But like, you know, I could sell one thing a day of a big thing, and that's like significantly less effort because you'd have to pack and ship 100 of these things. Print, pack, and ship 100 of these things. That's 100 boxes, it's 100 pieces of paper, it's 100 print cycles, it's 100 clicks at minimum, things like that. So there's money both ways, but just for me personally, it's like, you know, I gravitate more towards the things that are like a higher margin, a higher pop of money. And maybe that's just my bias, and that's kind of, you know, why maybe I gravitate toward these big art models, and that's why I have so much, I'm so optimistic about that car part. If I could, you know, start doing things like that, because, you know, one car part you print, that's one click to send it to print, that's one package, that's one ship. Cost a lot more risk, but it's like, you know, should I start selling those things? It'd probably be like at least $100 of a rip to do that, and I'd much prefer that versus 50 or 100 of these. So I'm gonna pack those up today, get those shipped off. I've got some other Etsy sales, computer parts that I have to take as well. Also my rollers. Also, if you can believe it, that's right, I used Fusion 360 for some, look at me, become just growing. Is that why you subscribed? Because of the growth? Because to see me grow in this magical world of wonder? So my rip-off stand, my copied stand, my plagiarized stand, my, you know, illicitly designed stand, that again, I hope to sell for charity. You can't be mad about it now. Got sort of the final sort of stages here. I had those on the A1 I saw previously. The stand sides, these are the sides that hold the side of the roller. Do I have an example? No. But these were like very square and geometric. And then I saw you can export Tinkercad directly into Fusion 360. And that just, the gif of the guy who's like, you know, with the mind expansion thing, that was me. Because I was like, that is great. Because I can do the big, rough idea in Tinkercad and then send it to Fusion to do all the fine tuning, the fillets, the chamfers, the what have yous. And it's like a good base jumping off point because I don't have to create this in Fusion from scratch. I can create the rough idea in Tinkercad, then go into Fusion and do what I need to do. I think that's like a tremendous, I'm very optimistic about that workflow. So what I did was I sent this into Fusion and did just a very easy sort of fillet on all, is it gonna focus? On all the edges here, just a 1mm fillet all the way around, just to kind of soften it up, soften up the edges. Feels good. I mean, this is like 5% infill. This is nothing. And it feels, I could run this at 5%, no issue. So this locks in, not locks into the sides like so. And then this is the side of the spool holder. If you recall the other ones I used, they're curved and they're pretty and they're like more aesthetically pleasing. I think this is more aesthetically pleasing because I like straight lines. But it just locks in on the spool, it keeps it from tangling. So very optimistic about that. Gonna keep working on that. I'm thinking I'm like 2 days out on that, but really the focus of that story was being able to export into Fusion, doing some other work in Fusion too with the next version of the Moai head because UJoy Bio is sending me filament to do the sponsored print. I wanna make sure I do like the biggest, best example that I can because I wanna sell it as well. So very optimistic, lots of new things, always something new. Love to know what you think in the comments below. Be sure to like the video because it's a nice thing to do and subscribe for more content like this. I'm the Technicals. See you next time.